Hey guys, Savage Joy with Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined with my RP brother Rocco. We are trying a joint interview, and we are interviewing Angelica Earl tonight. She is running for Senate in Missouri, District 1. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Angelica. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like to say I'm not running in District 1. I'm actually running for U.S. Senate. So I'm running in the whole state.
I suck as a journalist. I don't know if someone said District 1. I was like, okay.
No, not me. I'm actually taking on Claire McCaskill. She's my incumbent.
Okay. And is that a Dem or a Republican?
She is a Dem.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, she's Dem. That was an inside joke for everybody in Missouri in case they didn't catch that.
Well, what inspired you to run? I know a lot of Bernie-crats and everyone have started running and they say they could never run. They never thought they would. What was the deciding factor? What inspired you to go to that length?
So I was working in the marketplace, and when I was working there, I really realized that I had this really good grasp on everything that was kind of going on in our government. I had an inside view on immigration. I had an inside view on healthcare. I had an inside be able to speak to people all over the country about whatever they wanted to talk to me about on the phone. And so I was able to actually really get down to the nitty gritty of how government functions and how it affects everybody across the country. And when I saw how truly horrible it was, and then I saw that nobody else was going to step up against the incumbent when I was deciding to announce, I was like, well, that's going to be me. Now there are other people who are in the Democratic primary with me. However, I don't know who they are. I've never met them. One of them is a guy who runs all the time in a lot of different elections, and he kind of throws his hat into the ring. Another one I can't find any information on whatsoever. And then there's another one who is an actress and entertainer who is making an impact in a certain community who decided to step up. So the platform that we're offering here at Team Missouri still stands very firm on the Democratic ticket, and I think we still are in it to win it.
Awesome. Angelica, we actually just got a request. Can you turn down your volume a little? There's a bit of an echo.
It's actually not mine. I have my headset in.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's me.
Rocco.
Is that better? Yeah. Hey, hello, everybody. Angelica, I love your platform. And, looking at it, though, I see a lot of places and a lot of potential where we could really supercharge your platform just simply using our operational reality, the simple logic of our operational reality, MMT. And, but I do love it. It's a refreshing change. Neoliberal status quo we're so used to seeing on both sides of the aisle. But I do wonder why you didn't feature more things like, the job guarantee, for instance, in some of the policy pillars of your platform.
So what we're doing right now is we're actually updating that. So I actually have a team who knows what my platform is, knows the bills that I want to support, and they're actually right now writing some platform for the website so we can get that up to date with those bills and legislation that go along with the platform and where we stand. So that's in the works. If you actually look on the website, you can go down to the issues on the main page if you scroll down, and there's even a page that's coming out soon. So it's still in the process of getting going. It's getting the process of getting updated so we can be a lot more on par with what's going on.
Nice. Well, the one, when we look at your tax plan, I think we could all get behind a 90% tax on the wealthiest individuals, which would create incentive for them to reinvest their wealth to get in a lower tax bracket, Mm-hmm. But I think the bigger thing is we have to separate the tax fight and the spending fight. We can't add in unnecessary barriers to public purpose spending. And, with our operational reality, it's very easy to explain to people that money doesn't matter anymore in and of itself. That part's infinite. All that matters is we have the real resources available to buy with that money. So like, for instance, single payer healthcare. If we have the real resources to meet the demand for single payer, if we have the doctors, the medicine and hospitals to meet the demand, then we can always afford that program without raising taxes, without making cuts, and it'll always be non-inflationary. And I think, that's the main reason we need to separate taxing and spending. What do you think?
Right. So if we look at the American Dream Tax Plan, and we look at MMT, or we look at, a lot of the society, a lot of our country doesn't even know MMT exists yet. So we're still following the way taxes, the mindset of taxes for that. So I'm not saying that I wholeheartedly believe in MMT, but what I'm saying is that my tax plan actually works no matter how you view taxes. So whether you believe in MMT or not, the American Dream Tax Plan works to make sure that employees are getting the treatment that they deserve, and it's their right to be treated respectfully and with integrity. So with the tax plan, if, say, for instance, the taxes that we currently know is true, then the tax plan will help balance the deficit and make sure that we're all, kind of on an even playing field again. With MMT being true, the tax plan will actually work to just make sure that employees are getting their fair share and getting their cut and making sure that they're treated right. So no matter how you view taxes, the American Dream Tax Plan works for everyone across the board in the entire United States.
Well, before I give it back to Joy, I just want to respond. The thing is, there is only one operational reality, and it's very easy to prove. But the problem, when we speak in the same neoliberal language as the duopoly, the problem is people end up thinking we have to tax before government can spend on the public purpose. People think we have to cut defense before government can spend on the public purpose. That's how people end up accepting pointless austerity that kills just like bullets. But I understand that it's hard, people don't understand the reality, but, you simply tell them, can you start a game of Monopoly by collecting rents? And it's simple logic. Money always has to be issued first. So therefore, federal spending always funds taxpayers who then pay tax by bonds. It can never be vice versa. So to me, it's a kind of a step, it's something that you have to reflect the reality of in this area. I love, but we could still have a progressive tax code, but we have to be able to separate it to push our policy agenda.
Right. Now, when it comes to MMT, I'm all for that. Like, I know that it has not been disproven. I know that it cannot be disproven. And I know that it would literally help everyone in the entire country if we just went full blown. MMT is true. This is how it works. This is how we're going to operate. It would kind of create almost like a too good to be true utopian kind of environment if we did it right. However, here in Missouri, we are facing a huge misinformation issue across the entire state. We're known as deep red. Deep red, in my opinion, is extremely misinformed. These are people who can't and won't accept things that are coming in, and we have to find ways to integrate the truth into their lives. MMT at this point would be a huge, mind-blowing thing for people in that area. So we're not trying to really talk about that here in Missouri. What we're trying to talk about is, here is an option to make sure that you're going to find a job. You're going to be working. You're going to be working in a union, and we're going to make sure that your employer treats you right no matter what. Even if the only job you can find is in the service industry, we have your back here in the government, because that's what the government's really meant to do, right? We're actually meant to have your back as a societal member. It's not supposed to be we're representing businesses and corporations in your best interest when we're going to give them tax cuts and make you foot the bill for that. That's not okay. That's not how things are going to work. That's not how things are supposed to work. And so people like me are stepping up all over the country to make those changes happen.
Something I saw on your platform that is basically one of the hugest things to me is you talk about voting reform. And, we all saw what happened in 2016. First off, I could not find the info. Is your state open or closed for the primaries?
We have open primaries.
Okay. So right there, you're lucky as hell.
Yes, I know.
In Pennsylvania, we do not.
Yes.
So what do you hope to see, not just, not necessarily even in just your state, but as a whole across the country? What kind of progress do you hope for? Do you want paper ballots? Do you want open primaries for every state? Do you want ranked choice voting? What are your thoughts as far as the changes we need to make?
So an immediate change would be paper ballots across the board, because we just know that voting machines are unreliable and you can hack them too easily. And we've seen that in elections ever since they came out. So first, that's step one. Ideally, I would love to see ranked choice voting across the board. If we did ranked choice voting, that would really eliminate a lot of this two-party, he said, she said, who's better, who's worse. Let's set them all up and just figure out who we want there. And I think that's exactly what we need to be doing as a country, is saying our vote counts, our voices count. One vote, one voice, ranked choice voting is the way to go. And there's a lot of candidates in Missouri who are running, I wouldn't say alongside me, but they're running in the same primary that I'm running in their districts, and therefore ranked choice voting as well. So here in Missouri, we actually have a huge candidate push for ranked choice voting.
That's interesting. Because there are only, I forget the number, but there are only a few states who do it that way. And something else I saw you had on your platform, which is also a huge deal, is criminal justice. Are there a lot of private prisons where you live in your area?
So right here in St. Louis, where I live, we do not have a lot of private prisons. Now in Missouri, we do. We see a lot of families who are being destroyed for really inappropriate reasons, one of those being marijuana. So Missouri is fighting back, because that marijuana issue reaches into every different group in our society here in Missouri. We see opioid deaths. We have families being broken up with and going to jail, just an array of issues. So when it comes to criminal justice reform, one of the things I want to implement is that all police officers undergo compassion training. So that means that once a month, once every 2 months, all the police officers will be required to go in for this training to make sure that they know how to integrate into their community and talk to their community members. They know how to deal with mental illness when they come across it. They know how to deal with children when they go into a park and that child has a BB gun. So we have this big issue of police not really knowing how to handle a situation. So compassion training actually starts at that level, where you're making police officers really become aware of their jobs and what they're supposed to be doing. And that will also help all these communities that are being broken up. The next step would be to legalize marijuana, which would be rescheduling marijuana at the federal level, which is something that I absolutely stand for, is rescheduling marijuana. That would then hopefully get all these people out of jail and back in with their families, which they so desperately need. As well, once we have these two factors in, which would be the compassion training and the rescheduling of marijuana, then we can get rid of the private prisons. So it's kind of a three punch. And we have all three of these things together will dramatically reform our criminal justice system as we see it now, and will only lead to more changes to create better lives for everyone. In all honesty, I do feel that a private prison is totally unnecessary. We don't need them. Anytime anything has been privatized, it really just starts to become a profit garnering system for one person or a handful of people. And that just does not work. It's really inappropriate. It's something that a lot of people fight for, is for these systems to be privatized, because again, we're having that misinformation battle. We have seen throughout history that corporations, that businesses cannot be trusted to do the right things. They have never done that. That's why we have laws to prevent child labor. That's why we have laws that say, hey, we have OSHA that'll go in and make sure that you have a safe work environment for those employees. That is what regulations are. They're consumer and worker protections. So we have to make sure that all of these things go into place, and privatizing them really does not make sure that we are protecting our workers, our employees, or our consumers. And the same goes for the prison system. So the prison system being privatized actually causes a whole host of problems, because there's somebody sitting there laughing their butt off, raking in money at your family over something as simple as marijuana. Now, I will say that a lot of veterans are in prison for marijuana use. And it is really entirely inappropriate. If you're going to sit here and say that you're for veterans, then you need to be for medical marijuana, because they have PTSD and other health issues. That medical marijuana is literally the only thing that is substantial in helping them. And so if you're going to be for veterans, you have to legalize marijuana. If you're going to be for criminal justice reform, you have to legalize marijuana. You know, there's a whole lot of issues here. The criminal justice umbrella is very, very broad. And there are a lot of issues that can be corrected, and they can be corrected rather quickly if the right person is in office to step up and make those corrections, which is what we're trying to do here with Team Missouri.
Absolutely. What is it? Do you?
I'm sorry. We're talking about these issues. I see so many places that we could interject simple logic when we're election reform. You know, you want to combat local corruption. You want to combat gerrymandering. The federal job guarantee is the natural remedy. You know, and you make people understand that government creates unemployment with taxation. Government, targets 5% unemployment. That's systemic poverty. So, you know, we everybody should be able to have a job. If government taxation is creating unemployment, government should be putting enough money out there to make full employment. That's only fair. And then with extreme mobility, you know, if a city or local government doesn't treat their people well, you know, people can simply get up and move to a community that does value their people. And knowing that they have a federal living wage job guaranteed waiting for them.
Right. There's actually an exodus of young people here in Missouri. Yes. Young people are leaving Missouri and they're not coming back. So Missouri is literally dying. And so we here need to fix it. And that is with a huge push of progressives. And I say progressives. Okay, so here in Missouri, it's really weird when you say progressives, because the word progressives have been taken over by the Democratic Party here in Missouri. So we are literally trying to be new Democrats, which is why here in Missouri it's so important that we take over the Democratic Party, because they have taken over the grassroots movement here. And so if they're going to take over the grassroots movement, then the grassroots movement is coming to you, and we're going to go ahead and integrate in. So Missouri is really, really bizarre. And so here we're called New Democrats. You're shaking your head. It's so crazy here. It's such a mess in Missouri. I don't even have enough time to talk about how much of a mess it is here in Missouri. Really, this is kind of a last-ditch effort for Missourians to really take a step up and say, hey, we are not like the country thinks we are. We are not these people who are just totally hey, walk all over us and take all of our money and leave us to starve, and we don't care. That's not how Missouri is. And so that's why I'm stepping up also, because we are tired of our current senators doing that to us.
Are there any candidates running as Greens or Independents or Libertarians? Yes. Okay, so it is feasible to run that way.
Yes. So in Missouri, we do have an independent option, but it does take 10,000 signatures to get on the ballot as an independent. I've been doing signature collections since 2010, and I know how difficult that is for a person, especially in my position, who's really coming from nowhere, who's coming from a government job and is trying to integrate into the political scene without being bought out, without being establishment, without being there for years and years and years and seeing the inside and being part of that. I'm going to go as far to say kind of a cult-like atmosphere there. And 10,000 signatures is really, really difficult. unless you have a lot of money that you can spend on hiring people to do that for you, which I don't have. So the Democratic Party and integrating in like that is the best route to go in Missouri. Now, we do have Green Party. Green Party's been on the ballot, and Libertarian Party's been on the ballot for many years as well. So they are also running this year.
What is the typical percentage of how many votes they get?
It is not very much. I don't know what the percentage is. I have had a conversation with the Green Party here in Missouri, and that percentage, I think, if I remember correctly, is about maybe 3 to 13% of the vote. It's not very much.
Again, talking, about when the DNC admits in court that their own members don't have a right to democratically choose who gets elected in the primary. I mean, we still need to vote regardless. That's not what I'm saying. And in your case, it would be entirely appropriate to vote for a Democrat. But more importantly, we have to unite in solidarity outside of the duopoly. And bottom line, I think you have to be able to separate yourself from them. And you can't really come half-stepping in this, because what happens is like what Bernie did. He had a great platform. Everybody agreed with his goals. But when you don't explain the operational reality, you end up getting roadblocked, because you end up getting called crazy Bernie. Because your platform calls for $33 trillion in spending and only collects $19 trillion. Now, we know that doesn't matter because we understand our operational reality. But because he doesn't explain that on the trail, nobody else understood that. And so he gets stuck with the moniker Crazy Bernie. And, he just wants to give everybody free stuff. He answered them on it over and over and over again. I mean, you could simply say, hey, how did we spend that for our last defense appropriations bill? How did we spend for the hurricane relief? We've been lowering taxes, not raising them. All federal spending is created by congressional fiat from thin air, and the proof is all around you. It's a scientific fact. The government's debt is our asset in the private sector. And I think that we have to be bold, and we have to just come out. Most people that hear this, they instinctively know something sounds right about it. It may be counterintuitive, but because it's so logical, I think it's easy for people to overcome cognitive dissonance, when they simply dive into the material. But, I love your platform, but I see, especially, and I agree, like when we're talking about criminal justice, yes, I love normal. I think marijuana talk big, and really, no, we shouldn't be criminalizing peaceful behavior in nature, at all. It's completely wrong. Police legally rape, rob, and kill people over evil flowers in the name of corporate profits. If we want to, and I noticed you had compassion training as a big part of your platform for the police officers, and I agree, that's a great idea. But it's all for nothing if we're making our police or radicalizes them. I don't know if you're familiar with the Stanford experiments or the Lucifer effect, when good people do horrible things because they're ordered to do so by perceived authority, these things. So I think we have to be bold, and we have to look at the root causes. And fortunately, a lot of this stuff is simple logic.
Well, yeah, the compassion training would actually help weed out a lot of those causes. So, yes, we have problems with the laws, and we were talking about that, I think, when your video cut off. We were talking about getting rid of private prisons and how inappropriate private prisons are. And so we were talking about there being an umbrella of criminal justice reform. Like, it's a really, really huge umbrella, and there's a whole lot of factors under this umbrella that need to be addressed. One of them is ending the private prisons. One of them is rescheduling marijuana, and one of them is compassion training for police officers. Now, the compassion training, I can go a little bit more in depth with that, and that would be like, so we have a lot of brutal police officers that are absolutely just downright inappropriate at work, and they just take it completely wrong. So compassion training would actually help these brutal officers. So imagine that you're undergoing this training that's mandatory through your department, and it's teaching you about racism, and it's teaching you about mental illness, and that you need to hold back and not pull out your gun right away. Now imagine that you've been doing this training for 6 months or 8 months, and your friend over here, who's your partner, goes out and immediately kills somebody. And you're sitting there like, holy cow, what am I going to do? I'm a police officer. Well, compassion training, they've gone through this for 6 or 8 months with you, and they still killed somebody. So we're going to be able to weed out these little bad eggs who are still going to be behaving the way that they're behaving despite the training. And we'll be able to fill those brutal police officer positions with police officers who actually do their job the way they're supposed to do their job.
It goes into that. The economics, all problems in our society go back to economics, and they all have macroeconomic. We look at our police, we're privatizing even law enforcement. All of the social safety net is being privatized and deregulated. But when you look at the police, we privatize, and then they have austerity inflicted. So they have to police for profit just to stay operational. That's a systemic flaw that produces radicalized police to begin with. So compassion training, yeah, but
that's actually part of the compassion training. Yeah, it would actually fund the police departments, and if they don't do the training, then they get defunded.
Exactly. That's great. I like that.
I also see on your platform the Medicare for All, which is pretty much a litmus test for everyone. So like yourself, I've worked in healthcare for like a decade. So I also see so many problems that, people go through, and especially with affording medication and things like that. Why specifically did you put that on your platform?
Well, it's kind of a no-brainer. Medicare for All is what we have right now as a bill that needs to be signed on to and passed. Medicare for All is not full single-payer health care. So it's a really, really great stepping stone to get into full single-payer healthcare, and that's actually what I stand for. I believe in full single-payer healthcare. I have seen way too many people who have been affected by the health insurance industry, and I am the first one to step up and say it is time for the health insurance industry to go obsolete. It's time for them to go extinct. We don't need them anymore. They are in the way. They are a death panel. It's the death panel that everybody's worried about is the health insurance industry. So in order to move past this issue, we have to go single payer. And that means that we need to catch up with the rest of the world and finally get there, because we are never supposed to be a third world country. And yet we're quickly moving into a third world country atmosphere across the board. So I am really, really, really positive that Medicare for All is exactly what we need to do at this point in time to make sure that our country, our society, and our people are healthy.
Do you attach your Medicare to a pay-for tax, or do you recognize that in and of itself it's deflationary and would cost us less anyway?
Yes, so we pay way too much into the healthcare industry as it is. Way too much. So actually, we would be getting a break if we did do single payer. Now, we can go back to MMT, and if MMT is completely accurate and we have that, then we can actually have this full healthcare field paid off and really not even have to worry about it. It would not have to come out of our taxes.
Take MMT out of it. Take MMT out of it. It would be, we spend more than anyone else in the world and get
shit healthcare. Yeah.
We can cover everybody. cover us we make, So, we can have congressional appropriations, just pay for single payer. We don't need to add no taxes. We don't need to fight about that. I think even Republicans they love their kids. They want a better standard of living for everyone. They just don't want to have to pay for other people's mistakes. And once they realize that taxes don't, I think that's how they're more apt to join in and rebuild our society. People forget government owns everything. We're just like communist China. Nobody even owns property in America. We all rent. We all pay tax. There's no free market other than the black market. People don't understand. Without government spending, nothing gets done. So we already have central planning in a big way, and people, they don't really understand that.
That's absolutely true. Health insurance marketplace in Wentzville, Missouri. And when I got laid off during the huge mass layoffs last year, I was making $15 an hour. And I had to spend 6 months trying to find a job that would pay that or substantial, anything substantial for me to do that. And I have a degree. For that 6 month period, I was not able to find any job that would pay me anywhere remotely close to what that government position paid me. Yes, we are a government contractor. So you're absolutely right. The jobs are with government contracting. There is, and or the service industry. If you move to the service industry, you're not going to be getting paid enough to make ends meet. And that's totally unacceptable as well.
Hey, Rocco, do you have headphones?
I can't. You're cutting out again. Both ends are cutting out a little bit. I'm trying to play catch up and I can't really hear. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't even have none. I'll have to. Why am I cutting out?
No, but you're kind of echoing.
Okay, let me see something.
You just turn it down a little, maybe. So also,
is that better?
Is
that better?
I
can't hear you now.
Also on your platform, you have LGBT. I notice you do have. A lot of experience with fighting for them.
I missed what you said. I'm sorry. I love your voice, but hearing it twice is a little.
Your stance on LGBT.
Yes. So I'm a huge supporter of the LGBT community. I believe in equal rights across the board. I don't view them as being any different than you or I. I believe that they should have equal rights. I don't think that this should even be a discussion in 2018. I'm kind of surprised that we're still at this level of discussion. But however, I think that there are so many problems with our economy and our society that this should not even be a topic of discussion. Like, why are you worrying about what your neighbor is doing with his boyfriend when you yourself can't afford to go to the doctor, can't put food on your table, are getting horrible education for your kids because there's no funding for your school, and maybe you own a farm in which all of your profits get squandered away in buying seeds that you're not allowed to replant the next year. So honestly, yeah, I'm all for LGBT rights, equality, 100%. That's why it's on the platform, because I want everyone who falls under that umbrella to know that I am their ally, that I am on their side, and that I will fight for them. But the topic of discussion really needs to be overall society. How are we going to fix this? Because right now, all of us are failing. All of us are falling. All of us are feeling the stress of what's happening. We're actually heading straight for another economic collapse. We're heading for another recession or depression. And I'm really, really worried about that. I think everyone needs to really take a hard look at the regulations that are being rolled back, specifically by my incumbent, Claire McCaskill, as well, that are going to cause this economic collapse. and that we really are heading for this. So anyone who's listening from the LGBT community, I suggest that you take a step back. I know that your issues are very, very, very important, but our society is getting ready to fall again. And we really need to stand together and not be divided in raising up our society and our economy and fixing these issues.
Hey, again,
right. Hey, Mindy, I did. It's not me. So I did. Rocco, if you're not talking, can you mute?
Yeah, I could do that when I'm not talking. Real quick, again with the LGBT, the federal job guarantee is a way to empower people. And this is why I was so surprised. You can explain to people how when, labor is insecure, people have to accept discriminatory workplaces or living conditions because they have no alternative. When you have a living wage job, it solves a lot of issues simply by giving us collective bargaining power, leverage,
right.
But not even just for jobs all the way across. And then when you say that we're headed for economic collapse, I agree. And the main reason is, again, it gets into we have to explain operational reality. So we starve our economy of federal spending, and that only leaves private credit and the monetary policy of the Fed left to balance the economy. That's bad because private credit always dries up. And government got to move back into a deficit position anyway to bail out the rich. So we should, distributes it to balance the economy by spending at the bottom. With a federal job guarantee, then we don't have to worry. The federal, the monetary policy of the Fed and private credit become irrelevant. Nobody's dependent on private credit to live. This is like very important. I think it's a great way. These are winning issues for any candidate. I don't see how this could be a negative to argue no matter where you're at in America. But that's just what my comment on from so far.
Yeah, I'm still looking into the federal job guarantee. I know that the person who's running it has been very, very adamant about getting me involved. A couple of my volunteers are very, very adamant about me getting involved. However, there's a lot on my plate all at the same time, and that's on the plate, and it has not been eaten yet. So we're getting there.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
For sure. Something else you talk about on your platform is renewable energy. So what kind of green positions you have?
Okay, so let's talk about renewable energy. There's a whole lot to talk about with renewable energy. A whole lot. Here in Missouri, we desperately need renewable energy. We need it for the jobs. We need it for the unions. We need it for our atmosphere. We need it for a whole lot of reasons. So I, as far as I know, am the only candidate running for U.S. Senate here in Missouri that is actually adamantly seeking out renewable energy companies to come into our state. I'm actually the only candidate running for U.S. Senate here in Missouri that is actually adamantly seeking out renewable energy companies to come into our state. There we go. I got to say it twice. Isn't that awesome? So,
have on mute.
There we go. I got to say it twice. Isn't that awesome? So,
have on mute.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hello. Yeah, I can't really hear you guys. I don't know if can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just going to cut out because I think that my computer is bugging out. I can't hear what you guys are even talking about. But thanks for having me, Joy. I'll finish up in the comments and talk to you from there. I want you to finish out the session. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Okay. Thank you, Rocco.
All right.
Poor kid. I'm sorry about that.
Renewable energy. Yes. Okay. So here in Missouri, we're basically a renewable energy just plethora of opportunity. How do we start talking about this? So we have a lot of issues here in Missouri. One being that we don't have jobs. Renewable energy is a provider of jobs. We have a dying coal and lead industry here. Also, our farming industry is dying, but that's for totally separate reasons that we're not going to go into right now. But these other industries that are dying, we need to replace them with real work. We need real jobs, and we need unionized jobs. Well, renewable energy companies can provide all of that for these areas, whether it be a solar panel field, a wind energy field, windmill field, or even if we're talking about methane and pulling methane out of the air. So we have lots and lots of opportunities for jobs here in Missouri in all of these areas that are dying off. That's how we talk to the misinformed here in Missouri, is by telling them that this is a job opportunity that they need to really look into and support, because otherwise they're just going to end up working at the Walmart in their dead town that can't survive on a Walmart budget. So the other thing is, when we talk about renewables, we know that there's a huge, huge problem overall with our planet. And renewable energy is how we go about fixing that. And now I'm not going to let too many cats out of the bag, but I have been in communication with renewable energy companies that have the ability to actually start reversing the effects of global warming. And that means that they would actually be able to pull certain gases out of the air in areas that are abundant with these gases and revert them into energy and put them into our energy field, just like solar power or anything else. So it would actually, one, it would reverse or start the reversing process of global warming. And two, it would actually lower the bills of everyday citizens in that area. So their electric bill might be $200 this month. If we put this energy field into that, their electric bill might go down to $100 every month. So we're actually going to see a huge, huge shift in everything going on. Now, this renewable energy company in particular, I'm meeting with the owner later this month. And we're going to have a discussion on exactly what it would look like if they were to come into St. Louis specifically, and how it would provide jobs, what kind of jobs it would provide. The workers would be union checked on that. And we would also be able to see the effect on the environment in the immediate surrounding areas. So this is actually really, really huge. I asked the owner of this company if Claire McCaskill has ever reached out to him. And of course, the answer was no. I asked him if any U.S. senator has ever reached out to him with this technology that he has that can actually reverse global warming while providing jobs. And he said no. Now, this kind of really surprised me, because this is the future that I'm talking to the person who is a pioneer of the future. And no other U.S. senator has reached out to this person who has the patent on this ability to actually reverse global warming. So I am ecstatic that this person is able to talk to me. I'm thrilled that they're going to actually come into St. Louis and we're going to sit down and have a really in-depth discussion. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out exactly what we need to do to make it happen and make it real, that they're going to be here in St. Louis, and we can start telling St. Louisans how we're going to help clean things up. Not only that, but then we'll be able to go into other areas of Missouri and see how implementing this technology can actually help change their areas as well for the better. It's always going to be for the better. When you're talking about renewable energy, it only gets better. It does not get worse like we do if we're talking about oil or coal. So renewable energy, that's where the future's at. That's where we're headed. And I am 100% on board, to the extent that no matter what happens with my candidacy, that I'm actually working to make sure that St. Louis is going to get cleaned up, because I'm actually working with a real renewable energy company to come in and help clean up St. Louis.
That's awesome. And that's also kind of my personal litmus test. Was someone an activist prior? Is someone going to continue to be an activist? Because, sorry, I'm not going to vote for someone who just started caring on November 8th. I'm not. Like,
right.
You either, encourage better humanity, before, or you suddenly feel like, oh, Hillary didn't win, and now I have to step up and not go to brunch. So the fact that you've been, involved before is a huge selling point.
Oh, thank you.
Also, another deal breaker, as far as taking PAC money. Do you want to kind of talk about your stance on that?
All right. So I do not take super PAC money, and I do not take money from corporations. I will accept the maximum amount allowable per individual donor, which is $2,700. Please donate $2,700. We really need it with our grassroots campaign. I am very, very, very concerned about candidates who do take this money, because we have a huge issue with the Citizens United ruling. And of course, they're not going to overturn that ruling. So there needs to be a new law in place, which is Amendment 28. I really, really am strong with Amendment 28. I actually just filled out their candidate survey, and I have been endorsed by Amendment 28. So when we talk about Amendment 28, one of the very first senators to step up and say that I'm all for this was my incumbent, Claire McCaskill. Now, that concerns me very deeply because, a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but Claire McCaskill doesn't really seem to always tell the truth. And I'm not going to go into it. Please don't ask me to. Don't dog me for it. Just go Google. Google's there for you. It will help you with all of your answers. However, Claire likes to do the I'm working for you while I'm taking money from them. We see that with the military-industrial complex. We see that with Medicare for All. We see that with renewable energies. She is not for any of these things in making our society have a better future. I don't see how any current sitting politician can be for Amendment 28 when they are actively taking advantage of the Citizens United ruling. You cannot fight what you are. So you have to have an outside person come in and fight that, which is where I come in, because I have a lot of willpower. I have a very deep insight of where our society and our country is heading, and it terrifies me to the bone. I am really, really worried about the fact that our politicians are bought and paid for, and that the people who are around them are supporting the fact that they're bought and paid for, and not saying, we're not going to support you anymore. We're going to support these other candidates who are not accepting lobbyist gifts or money from corporations or super PAC donations. It's really not about the money, and it's becoming about the money with campaigns, and it should not be. It should have never have been about the money, and it is. And ever since Trump got his presidency, my incumbent has seen a dramatic increase in personal wealth, and that speaks volumes.
It sure does. It's like when Bernie said, like, you didn't win an election, you bought an election. You should have, yes. It's just common sense. And why would people like her lie about it? You hear it all the time, but all you have to do, like you said, is Google. It's incredible. They're trying anything to stifle progressives, and they're also trying anything to appear as though they are progressives.
Yes.
It's quite sad, really.
Well, that's how corporations stay in control. So a lot of people do not agree with the argument that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are one and the same. And I will say that while there are a lot of similarities in what they are doing and how they are behaving, they are not the same. And that is because the Democratic Party is bought out to appear as though they're different, when we see that their voting shows us that they're not. So we can actually look at real records and real, like, paper copies, and see that their voting records, they're bought out. They're not the people that we need to have in office anymore. It's time for new Democrats or for independents to take over these positions and to fix these things. There's a huge uprising here in Missouri, huge uprising against the current incumbent sitting senator. A lot of the Democratic Party and everybody who's inside of it and members do not want to admit to themselves that there is a backlash against their favorite candidate. However, I have been around enough and have gone to enough people and have talked to enough people to know that there is not a snowball's chance that she is going to win the general. It is impossible for her to win the general. They would rather vote for an egotistical, lying Republican than vote for Claire McCaskill. And that's a hard pill for them to swallow. And they fight me tooth and nail, and they don't think that it's the truth. But the bottom line is that is the truth. If they want to keep the seat blue, they have to vote for Team Missouri. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate enough to interview Congressman Ro Khanna, and he was talking about how he proposed a bill to have people in Congress sign that would agree to not take any PAC money from that day forward. There's only 6 who agreed in Congress as a whole. That's a huge deal. That should wake people up right there. These people are already millionaires, and they will not sign that contract. They don't work for us. What's the point?
What is the point? Democrat, meaning that they're donating to Claire McCaskill. Mm-hmm. Now, that would mean that they're making an investment into our current sitting senator, and they're expecting a return on their investment, just like all corporations do, except this is unions we're talking about. These are workers. These are people like you and me who are expecting a return on their investment of their sitting senator. If their sitting senator does not support renewable energies, does not support criminal justice reform, and is really doing nothing but constantly the aisle and making sure that they're making bipartisan decisions and throwing us under the bus repeatedly, like, say, for instance, expanding the NSA and cutting off our 4th constitutional amendment right, what return on investment are unions actually getting? They're not. They're actually being thrown under the bus, and they're wasting their money on politicians who are throwing them under the bus and are trying to make them go obsolete. If they're not supporting renewable energies, unions are going to go obsolete, and that is exactly what we cannot have, which is how right to work came to be, because people are saying that unions need to be going obsolete. That is not true. Renewable energy keeps the unions valid. It keeps them working, and it keeps people employed and treated right. So again, we have a return on investment in renewable energy only, and unions are not investing in that. So they are choosing the wrong path, which is where I come into play. And this is a huge information campaign that we are pushing to make sure that unions are aware that Team Missouri is where they need to be voting and putting their money to have a future in that union and to stay valid. Whereas right now, they're not going to be valid for too much longer if we stay on this path.
Right, absolutely. If you could leave one final thought with the people who are watching, that to encourage people from your state to vote for you or to check out more info about you, what do you want to leave them with?
So we are Team Missouri. This is a unified effort across the entire state of all of us together, saying that we are tired of the way things are and we are ready to move into the future and to secure the future and have retirement for ourselves and our children. Team Missouri is the only way we're going to make that happen. Team Missouri is stepping up to the plate and making sure that we're going to hit that home run. Whereas my incumbent, and I will say this speaks volumes about where we stand in Missouri. I have decided that I am out of the equation in the respect that it is not Team Angelica. It is not Team Angelica because this is not about me. This is not about me winning or me becoming famous or me becoming a politician. This is about me stepping up and doing the right thing and having people behind me who will also do the right thing and who will count on me to do the right thing, and I will. And so Team Missouri, that's where I stand. My incumbent is Team Claire. She will be Team Claire. Her bumper stickers are Team Claire. We are Team Missouri. We are teammissouri.net. We are hashtag Team Missouri. We are Team Missouri Facebook group. That is who we are. We are all in this together. If we are not in this together, then we are not going to fix our future. We are not going to change the path that our country is on. More of the same is not truly more of the same. It is going to get worse. We are going to start starving. Our children are going to start dying and eventually be unbreathable. This is unacceptable, and Team Missouri is going to change our future. All of us together or none of us at all. teammissouri.net. Please, if you have the opportunity to donate, we need your donations. We are completely grassroots. We do not take money from anyone except from individual donors. Your donation goes a very long way. We have billboards that we need to pay for. We have advertisements that are coming out. And one of the biggest advertisements we want to do is be on the top of Google searches. And that costs a lot of money. And we need to get those outreach into the areas that we can't reach without your donations. That is why it is important, and we still have to ask for money because it does cost money to have outreach into areas that we cannot normally reach. So please, if you have the opportunity, go to teammissouri.net or donate on crowdpack.com/C as in cat /Angelica for Missouri, all spelled out.
Somebody actually just posted the link, so thank you for that. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sorry, last time you came on with Rocco, you guys had like technical something or other, but thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best of luck. I also want to say before we get off of here, registration in Missouri is due by 7/11, and the primary is on 8/7. So I always like to do that just in case because we're all different. Thank you again to all the viewers. And Wednesday, I have a candidate named James Ellers. He is a Navy vet running for Vermont governor, and he actually worked for Bernie's. He was Bernie's advisor on environment and veterans issues for many moons. So he'll be with me 9 Eastern on Wednesday. And I want to give a special shout out to all the Texas candidates I've had on here. There have been many of you. Tomorrow's the big day. I wish you all luck. You guys have fought really hard. So best of luck to all of you guys. So thanks again for watching. And thanks again, Angelica, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Joy. It was a pleasure being able to speak to you. I really love everybody's comments. I was kind of reading and following along as we were going a little bit. And, we're going to take this country back. We're definitely going to do it. We're going to do it fast. We're going to do it in one swift kick, and we're going to get there because if we don't, we're in trouble. So let's do it. Let's go.
Yes, right on. Well, best of luck, and thank you so much again.
Thank you. And one last thing I'll say. I have all the luck in the world. What I need is everybody's help.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.